All right, everybody. Sorry, anagram solvers, but we're back. We have a great matchup. We were just talking about the semi-surprise, maybe not to everybody watching, but certainly to myself. Tega Okiemute in first place right now. He's going to be taking on a seasoned player who we just watched compete against Olatunde Odewole. Eda Karo, a matchup of potentially, past versus present versus future, something like that. Eda has to rebound from this loss we just watched against Tega, who potentially is going to play very accurately and very fast. So I'm very excited for this matchup. I'm going to let our organizer know that the players can start. Do you have any expectation of what to see? What is it like, Austin, when you lose a tough game to bounce back in the next game after that?
Yeah, it's very difficult. As we already mentioned earlier, we don't really talk too much about the mental element of things. And we also mentioned in the last game, people can get tilted by all sorts of things. So it's difficult to try and bounce back, just kind of put everything to the side from what happened in previous games. And yeah, you just have to treat every move as a separate puzzle and just do your best every time. And that's how you got to really approach it.
It's easier said than done for sure. I feel like there are some players that I definitely count you among these. I have seen you rebound from unthinkable things to either win events or to turn your tournaments around. Like you're pretty much at the top of the list for me of people that seem to be just unflappable no matter what happens. I feel like I'm pretty good at that, but I definitely have a limit after which I start to tilt and break down. So, yeah. So we'll see. I think Eda is also a pretty fierce competitor. I don't think he's too worried about losing his previous game there. Let me just make sure I do have the records correct. So yeah, we've seen Tega once. He played really accurately and really fast. Let's see if he's able to reprise that performance here against his countryman Eda, who's routinely rated 2100 or above in Wespa.
Yeah, he's one of the top players in the world. And yeah, I would say there's not much that really phases him either. And yeah, he's definitely one of the best in the world. Um, yeah, so, he's just a general very solid player.
Yeah. I definitely like there every now and then we'll see a play from Eda that seems like he seems like a creative player. Like in that first game, we saw him play Roke, right? Where I feel like a very standard play would have been something different, but he had a different idea of the direction he wanted to go on that turn. I think he's very unafraid to sort of take a shot at a different approach on certain moves. On this move, though, he's just going to play Entreat. That looks pretty good, although maybe I would want to play Turnate here instead. Um, so just, seeing that Turnate doesn't take an S and doesn't put any vowels next to bonus squares the same way Entreat does. Could be the tiniest little improvement, but I don't think it's a bit that big of a deal. Um, and in classic Tega fashion, apparently, he plays his play of Ryer nearly instantaneously. Seems reasonable. Worth also considering. I mean, Twirler is a little risky putting that nice S hook there. I don't know. Ryer seems okay to me, I guess. Do you have any feelings versus Ryer, Twirler, or maybe Wura, Austin?
I think I like Twirler more. Again, your opponent just played a bingo, has random seven tiles. So obviously there's no real knowledge of anything that they're going to have an S there. You might pick out an S. But yeah, I think getting rid of maybe the arrows might be a good thing also for this rack.
Yeah, twirler is valid. I didn't mean to imply that it wasn't. I meant to imply that it's just a little riskier than Ryer. So it's definitely valid. The word that is like that I've often thought is a word but isn't is swirler. I've tried that. I've imagined that to be a word before. So anyway, Ryer is the play. Makes some sense. And score of the game now is 66-18, given the first two plays for both players. Interesting rack here for Edda. Triplicated eyes. Oh, wow.
Playing that quickly.
What do we think of that?
Oh,
Teepee, teepee for very, very few points. That is off the beaten path as a choice here, I think. That
yeah.
just scores so few points. Compared to there's definitely some other stuff here that you could do. TP for 6 season here would have
Oh,
scored 38. So I feel
yeah.
like that's got to be worth it.
I believe
Um,
so.
I just think, and you could play it here too for 35. So definitely seems like miscalculation there. There's just so many more points. You're getting 32 more points for a play like this. Ironically, that would make a big G hook, which Tega has multiple G's, but
Looks like he's already.
that's not that big of a deal. Sorry, I cut you off, Austin. Ooh, I might. Did we? Not sure. He might have had a
I know. Just wondering
freeze.
if Taker already played a move or not. He's picked some tiles already.
Ah, okay. Sorry. You're right. Just had a brief moment of. Oh, he plays tingling.
That's a
Okay.
very nice play.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. Sorry, we had the Quackle screen
That's
on
all
a
good.
little too long. Tingling makes a lot of sense here for him. Of course, he plays it nearly instantaneously. Wow, nice draw for Edda to his rack of Zins. He's drawn the blank to go with it. I don't think he has anything there. But even I don't know. There's plenty of directions he could go here. Gov. Suggestion from Dave in the chat of just playing Gov right here at the base of the board and setting up a gigantic play that doesn't even necessarily burn your blank. That's a fun play. That would certainly give us quite the sweat. Um, Not even joking. Think it could be best. I mean, it's kind of scary to do a play like that. Obviously, okay, it looks like something like
Zinco.
Zinko. Maybe he's going to play zoning. Okay, he's going to play zoning
Right.
for 68. That feels pretty good too. That's a lot of points. There's a little bit less downside. Um, Zoning 68 points feels reasonable. Certainly Gov with that future play of Zins leaving the blank in that like 2-turn sequence could be a huge upside play, but it's kind of nice to take 68 points right now here.
Yeah, I think Gov would be good. Maybe towards the end of the game where you're actually losing by maybe 50, 60 points. Maybe a little premature to kind of, even though David said that in the previous game that a move was too wild, maybe that one is even wilder. So,
Hey, it's nice to have an appetite for wild plays from time to
yeah,
time.
definitely.
Sometimes wildness is completely called for, as we see Tega plays his Q play very, very fast. And similar to last game, he is barely into his 22nd minute of clock time after 3 moves. So we did have someone in the chat give us a little background from Tega. Tega is a master player that hails from Delta State, considered very good. In 8 letters, plays very fast. He cares very little about board control and loves open plays where he can express himself. Considered deadly and has what it takes to be a champion. Um, so that's a pretty good scouting report. But yeah, I was certainly very impressed with him in our first encounter with him on the stream, and he's shown nothing to disprove that in his second game so far. So and really, what is your like Austin? You are a very very strong blitz Scrabble player. I mean, I feel though that you definitely have that gear of you can slow down in a 25-minute game, but do you ever feel like using that blitz ability is sort of worth it in a slow-paced game of Scrabble? Like, what is your thought on playing fast, I guess?
Um, I think playing fast, I mean, it's only good if you can come up with the right answer quickly. So, the kind of example that I would use is playing the GOAT, Nigel Richards, as we all know.
Hmm.
He tends to play very quickly, just in general. Like he barely uses like 10 minutes of his time. He kind of computes everything very quickly, very fast, and he comes up with well, what we assume is always the right answer. So the fact is that if someone plays very quickly, you as the opponent would actually have less time to think of your words also. So it kind of is a double-edged sword. Like you want to kind of find the balance between finding the right play, but also not playing too slow and giving your opponent like 3 minutes to think about it on your time, and then they can basically play something straight away, and then the time pressure kind of creeps up on you as time goes on.
Yeah, it's a good point. And sort of the corollary to that, it's only good if you can find the right play quickly. Of course, trying to go for that speedy play and making an unforced error can be counterproductive. So if you can reach that point where you're finding the right place quickly, as we previously saw Tega play Figo through the blank G of zoning, that was the right play with that rack. There was nothing any better for him on his rack there. So he again found the right play nearly instantaneously. And the players that have that ability to find the right play quickly, you mentioned Nigel Richards. I don't know if I've ever seen him with less than 10 minutes on his clock at the end of a game. People like Adam Logan who play super super fast but also accurately. It is nerve wracking to play those players. I feel like even as I've gotten a little better at blitz, I do not have that ability yet to force my opponents into that uncomfortable time pressure, and I feel like that's such an underrated thing about one of some of the best players in the world. They have that. So yeah, it's definitely there's something to when you're looking at an annotated game. You could be looking at two plays. Two players could make the same play, and if one of them made that play in 10 seconds and the other took 5 minutes, that's not the same, right? That's different. So
Yeah, I think time pressure is actually kind of underrated also because especially if you're playing someone who's very even, but also if you have kind of history with them and you know that they're not particularly um, a player that maybe comes up with the answers quickly, or maybe they don't even react well under pressure. You can actually utilize that tactic, and then they'll end up hemorrhaging a lot of equity that way also.
it's a good
This is
point.
also, yeah, this is also a tactic that sometimes I use if I know that my opponent is running low on time and I can or have the ability to think of a move quickly, and I will just kind of put the pressure on them also that way.
For sure. I mean, those types of choices pay dividends quite a bit. So Eda is getting ready to play ovens here. He's going to be leaving EI on his rack. I'm so curious, like, there is an additional risk of playing those extra letters here, depending on what he. Sorry, let's bring this up. So ovens here, if you were to play ovines instead, you're setting yourself up for not only bovines, but also covines is a valid word here. So that's very risky, but also you keep just an E instead of EI, which is kind of nice. I don't know. EI might be a nice leave to keep here as well, because you might draw into stuff ending in EIR to this R. So I don't know. That's tricky. I think my gut wants me to play ovines anyway, but I'm not 100% sure. But also, there's simple plays like Evo that leave much better leaves here too for Eda. So that was kind of a tricky situation. Not sure which way I lean on that.
Yeah, so like playing ovens or ovines kind of takes out the big spot really for a bingo. So maybe something like Evo would actually kind of open up other parts of the board where you have multiple options to bingo.
So immediately a play of Geld comes down with Dobbins. That looks pretty strong. I guess I don't really see any major issues with that. He's played Geld instead of Gled so that he doesn't give any Glede underlaps. I don't think that's that big of a consideration here. But Geld, I don't know. Maybe I don't. Do we think Clegg is worth doing just to keep your vowel. I think it's fine. I guess Geld is a it's pretty hard to re-overlap that just because the G doesn't accept any two-letter words on this side except for an A or a U. It's not that easy to play with those letters there. Um,
Yeah, Clegg is a good move. Again, it keeps the E on your rack as well. It keeps a valuable vowel, and actually leaves the Dobbin's hook open if you can draw well into a bingo next time.
True. Yeah, that's true. You keep your D for something better. There's an open E of entreat that's nice to go for something in this area. So,
Yeah.
tricky. I wouldn't call this a big error if we call it
No,
one at
definitely not.
all. But yeah, again, the best thing you could say about it is it came down nearly instantaneously. So let me get the scores updated. So Edda is still ahead. He's got decent letters. Oh my God, there is a crazy play here too. Oh man. Um, so I won't spoil it yet, but man, there is a stylish play available here for Edda, and if he were to see this play, this would be a major freak out for everyone. Here, let me alphabetize this. It's not a bingo, but it is nice. This is like a puzzle. This is like a puzzle answer here. All right, hold on. Ed is playing something. He's just playing head. That's a pretty reasonable play. Yeah, the answer is yes. The answer is a double double on the K column. That's right. You guys are all correct. Um, yeah. Dave says he's got it. Not spoiling. Should I give it away here? I guess the
Go ahead.
play is moving so quick that I
It
almost
is,
have
yeah.
to. So, play of head for Edda. The best play here, potentially, we got to look at what it does to the board. Olearia through AR, leaving
Ooh.
DH for 44 points as a double double, hitting both of these two bonus squares. That would have been quite amazing. Head obviously has its own benefits of blocking off the triple and all of that stuff. But I think we saw Wiper get played very fast. That looks like a very reasonable play
Yep.
to set up your S. Leaving CRS, that's a very strong leave. And now there's a bunch of places for it here, including just AGs in this area of the board, in addition to Wipers. So we'll see what happens. But man, Olearia would have been an absolutely crazy play to see go down. I give myself very little chance of finding that. Maybe I would find that if my opponent took a really long time to make a play, but Tega never takes a long time to make a play. So yeah.
That's true.
Ancient
Yeah.
Cosmographer, who we should shout out for being the creator of our, if you guys are enjoying doing your anagrams during the break, that's because Ancient Cosmographer built that tool. It's called InfiniWords, which is really very, very impressive. And while we're doing plugs, I might add, I put in the stream title. Um, Thank you very much. The shout out. Oh, that's so cool that shout outs do that now. That makes it so much easier. All right, sorry, we missed a play here of Oval. That looks like a reasonable play here. Maybe, oh, there were some
Yeah. Bad
other.
leave.
Yeah, the leave is not very good. I hesitate to actually analyze this too much because I feel like Tega's next play is coming down quickly. But an
Oh, that
interesting
was nice.
idea would have been just Fogu leaving ABIL. That leave actually combines extremely well with this open E for able plays and other plays with those letters. So maybe a slight missed opportunity there. Tega has drawn very poorly for sure. But anyway, as I said, I hesitate to plug too hard because we're probably going to get a move from Tega momentarily, whatever that is. But definitely want to shout out Austin, my co-commentator here. We have to signal boost this man. He has been streaming a lot, is super entertaining. Definitely encourage everybody to follow his channel. Austin, how do you say the HO? I say it Austinho. Is that like Mourinho or other? Help me with that because I'm too American.
No, no, you're exactly right. That's how it's meant to be pronounced. I know a lot of people would just say Ostino, but But yeah, you got it exactly right.
Good. Um, all right, Jots is the play here, but yeah, definitely recommend that follow. Austin's doing awesome streaming. It's very entertaining. It's crazy to watch you play. You just find the good play so fast. Um, whereas when I stream, I'm just blundering up a storm, for the most part. So Jots is a weird play though. We should definitely look at that play. There were other plays maybe that kept the S, but of course with only one vowel, and it looks like Tega redrew an S too, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Yeah.
Suggestion of maybe jet through the E of entreat. It's possible. I mean, Joe here could be kind of nice long term, just because we've seen this archaic S hook. Maybe that comes in handy. Of course, leaving CRSTT, it could go wrong a lot of the time. So I don't know. Jots feels pretty reasonable to me. I don't feel like that's that big of a mistake if it is one at all.
Yeah, Jet kind of blocks up the board a little bit. I mean, if anything gets played where Jots is after Jet, then it kind of jams up the board, and your letters are not going to be coming down very, very well on the board that way.
Mm-hmm. So Edda plays Vow, um, just blocking off that and putting the V out in space. That looks pretty good. But yeah, I guess another idea there in the same spot as Olearia was just Varia. That could have been an intriguing choice there as well. So, all right, hold on. I'm a little behind on this. So, play of Vow came down. I mean, Vow is a reasonable choice. Toker. Interesting. I feel like this feels like you can play shorter maybe. I don't know. This isn't on my radar as a play that I would be considering here. Toker.
Yeah, so I
Score's
think the
okay,
main
but
reason, yeah, the main reason I think here is that he's just so far behind. He needs to actually the board, otherwise he's just going to get suffocated and lose this game. That's the reason I can think of for playing a move. But I feel Eta's actually very strong defensively, and I think he's going to try. He will probably. I already kind of guessed that he's going to hemorrhage and equity wise to try and close the board down. Like he could play something like BA in the back or something, do something like that that will kind of close that opening difficult for his opponent.
interesting. Yeah, it does. I do feel like, and trying to figure out if it's on my end. There's just a little bit of like noise in our Zoom call, Austin. Hopefully it's temporary. I think you're like 99% audible. So, but to your point, that Edda is definitely playing defensively, however possible here. I don't know. I mean, there's definitely. So do we think he's going to respond to the openings created by Toker, or is he going to play something on the interior of the board somewhere? Is my biggest question. So with this rack, it looks like there's our answer.
Oh, look at that.
There's our answer. That is a pretty emphatic answer here. Of he's going to do anything possible, and that leaves EIOUX. I mean, so David Eldar, not a fan of this move, a world champion his own right, is saying he's not a fan of this move. I get the logic behind it. Snary, oh my god, look how fast that came down. Did you see that move? Snary for 61.
I didn't see it even come down.
I didn't even see it come down either. 1 minute it wasn't on the board, and the next it was. Snary for 61. Tega finds it instantaneously. I have to say, he has continued to impress me. This guy can play for sure. He's in first place right now for good reason, clearly. as Eda plays Exo, and man, his rack is just running further and further aground here. Exo scored well, 36, but it left EUUI. Sorry, let's flip this for everybody.
Yeah.
So, all right, hold on. Let me just get Eda's points for that. All right, I think the scores are correct. Look at the time difference, too. It is just incredibly striking. Yeah, 18-9, and I feel like Eda is a fast player. So that's amazing. So we'll see what Eda draws to his terrible leave. He needs some kind of consonants, or else he's going to run into probably an exchange scenario, which is the last thing he wants right here. Hey, that's a good play, Matlow. That's a good idea. Opening more space on this board, which is kind of a struggle here. Okay, the board getting flipped here. So opening space here, getting these lines out on the board makes a lot of sense. It's not a great board to hit, and it's even blocks here. I guess Eda almost has to play Bayou here.
Yeah, I think that was the best play. Scores well. It has to get rid of those junk tiles. It's got to be done, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a forced play, and we'll see. One blank is still to come. Maybe I'll try to sneak a look at the analysis board here to show Eda's perspective here, just real quick. So from Eda's POV, the unseen tiles are pretty balanced. A lot of E's, an S, and a blank there. So definitely some reason for concern that even after... So sorry, I got to give Tega his points for his previous play. So even after Bayou, Eda will go up a lot, but it's not impossible that Tega will have some big play from the B going across. There's plenty of bingos that he could have in response to Bayou here.
Yeah, his 30 points I think he has to take it. It will keep him slightly ahead. So I think that's the right play. It looks like he's playing it right now.
Yeah, kind of forced. With that rack, there's so few options. There's going to be almost no way that you can get such a high score. So back to Tega, and from his perspective, he's drawn. He has drawn. Hold on. What have I done here? A, C, D, R. Does he really have two R's? Where have I gone wrong here that it's not letting me give him another R? Let me look at the board. Entreat, Ryer.
Snary.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think there's 5 R's on the board, aren't there? Snary, 2 in Ryer, 1 in Entreat, and 1 in Toker. So he can't have 2 R's.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, that can't be right.
So we'll see what he actually has. If he has any of those, if he has A, C, D, R, T blank, the odds are pretty good that he's going to be bingoing somewhere here. And he's got ample time to figure this out. So sorry, there are not 8 in the bag now. I'm trying to get his rack correct. That second R on his rack is not actually there. So depending on what he has, the unseen tiles are this. There's 5. Excuse me. There are 5 in the bag from his POV. Sorry, that first A is cut off. I'm not sure why. Let me see here if I can fix it. Where is it here? Make it much more. There we go. I'm able to fix that. Oh, it's another D. Another D,
yeah.
Okay. So there is, it might not be the best play here. There is exactly 1 playable bingo in this position. It doesn't feel like it's the correct play. Sorry, he's made something here. Let me go back to this screen. So play of Drac, yeah, data card. That's right, data card.
Yeah, and I feel
Um,
like Taker needs to bingo out if he really wants to win this game. Data card kind of puts him within maybe 20 points, but Etta will be able to hit him back with another 30 or 40 points, and he'll just lose that way.
yeah. And so Etta is looking carefully over the board. Drac, I think, actually emptied the bag, if
Oh,
I'm not mistaken. So I think the situation here is that yeah, this is it. These are the final 14 unplayed tiles. So basically, Etta has to. This is kind of tricky in that he simply has to block something like. Well, he doesn't have to. He can just outrun here. He's up by enough that if he just plays anything, um, and probably he doesn't. He can't block everything here, given the R of Ryer. I'm sure that there are some things to that R there. So,
yeah.
um,
Looks
are
like
there
Etta takes the play.
diameter? So, like, given that diameter is available to this R here, and that bedmates is available here, and it's going to be very difficult to block both, Etta should, instead of trying to block, be thinking about scoring enough to outrun them, which I definitely think he can do if he plays almost, I don't know, almost anything. He can play like Seek in this spot at the top of the board that scores 33 and easily outruns even the
Yeah.
big B bingo here. So he's going to figure this out. Um, and just knowing that, so I guess another way forward here would be to try to block bedmates with a decent scoring play and let diameter go down for fewer points and still outrun that way. So something like just AUK, I don't know, AUK, AUKS, any of those options should get that done too.
Is that enough? Orcs is enough.
AUKs,
He, yeah, I guess it is.
I
Yeah, I
think
guess it's slightly enough.
he'll. So after that,
Oh,
it'll be 370 to 283. Oh, also steamed is there. So
yeah.
diameter would score 74, steamed would score 75, and Etta would win by 4 after that. So
Okay. So
very,
kind of,
very close. Very, very, very close.
yeah. This is
Wow. Extremely close. So I think the easiest win is to just play Seek, and I think you're just going to outrun this play. You win by 7 after the play of Seek, then Bedmates.
yes.
So wow, just over the finish line. Tega doing everything possible to wrest victory from the jaws of defeat here. I feel like he has really, I don't know, hard to look back and see any kind of big mistake on his part. Maybe Jots, maybe Toker. I mean, those are really, really marginal plays on his part. So well done to him, even though he's going to come up on the short end here.
Yeah, the other option was when he played Geld instead of Clegg. That could have been potentially
True, true.
but um,
Sorry, I think the second half of that sentence was when you were talking about Geld.
oh yeah, so just saying that Geld might have been a changing point. He could have played Clegg instead. That was really it. But
Right, right.
that happened so early. It could anything could happen at that point.
So Etta is doing. He has somehow, despite the onslaught from Tega, he still has a few minutes left on his clock to figure out what the heck he's supposed to do here, which that's helpful. I do find that that's like, oh, is he rescoring the game? That makes sense. He's trying to make sure that if he goes, he's definitely. You can see by his body language, he's just making absolutely sure that if he elects to allow Tega to get this bingo, that he's not gonna regret it when an extra 10 points come up in someone's favor or against someone after the game. So this makes sense. He has the time to do that. I don't know. Have you ever, Austin, had that where you make a play at the end of the game thinking it's going to win you the game and then discover afterwards that you had misscored a play and actually lose. That has happened to me before.
Yeah, it's happened to me a number of times. You could argue you could say it's a rookie mistake, but it's one of those things where maybe you just kind of take for granted, like whatever the score has been said is actually what it is. And I more frequently now, when it comes to this situation where you have a lot of time at the end, I do double check the tracking and I double check the score because you don't want to, in this kind of scenario, in this kind of magnitude of a tournament, you don't want to make a silly mistake. And it's all just down to a math error. Like you want to make sure that you have got the scores right, you've got all the correct information, and that's what you need to do. Because everyone's watching right now. You don't want to be making that be have an egg in your face, you know. So that's exactly what he's doing right now. And he looks like he's playing the right move also with Seek. He's done the math. Well, I think you're muted, by the way. You muted?
Right. Yes, I am.
There you go.
I muted because I was trying to take a drink of water without letting everybody hear that slurping sound when I drink. And I forgot to, yeah, it's back because I clicked the microphone off. It's totally my fault. Yeah, what I was saying was basically in a different game scenario where the score is closer, it might be a different story of you might have to pick one of the two spots to try to block and predict which bingos your opponent is going to see. I think in this case, Tega is going to have seen all the bingos relevant to the position in the form of steamed, diameter, and bedmates. But you might, let's say Etta was only up by 30 or 40 instead of 70, and now after his play he's going to be up by 100 here, so 103. Let me flip this board for you guys. So let's see how long it takes Tega to make this final play. I guess from his perspective, if he's able to fit the M on, like, what if bead mate was a word, like Hans Niemann, right? Hans Niemann. If bead mate is a word here. Oh, okay. Is he going to try it? No, he's just going to play the regular word. So bedmates is absolutely the correct play. 89 points as a bingo. If he plays bead mate here, unacceptable play, should not be challenged off the board. It scores 95. It would score 95, and it would get him to a 1-point loss, which, of course, the players would surely recount that game.
Oh, look at him go. Look, he heard you.
Wow.
I think he's counting it.
This is amazing. I have manifested reality, folks. There's no way they're hearing me. The stream is not audible on that end. It's completely like we're getting a feed remotely here. There's no way he's hearing.
Could be bendmate. It could be anything.
Bendmate, yeah.
Whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, I don't even know. Beldmate. What do we? I'm assuming this is an A. Chess, calling all chess players. We have beads in our game as well. The bead mates are here. Unfortunately, this is not going to even win the game. Yeah, I think he may have decided. Look at Etta. You see him shaking his head?
Maybe he's not sure.
His body language was just now. He's just like, oh my God.
He's going to sleep. He's got 11 minutes to think of it.
So, yeah, unfortunately, I think, yeah, I had a 5-minute delay, which we could do theoretically. Unfortunately, this would be 10 times more dramatic if the play of Beadmate would actually win him the game. Unfortunately, it would only get him 1 point short. So, oh man, if only it would actually win him the game, then he might play it here, which would be a great moment.
That's correct. But
Um,
we also don't know if either of players have underscored any of the moves. It could be 1 point fewer, and then it
true.
may tie the game, and then it may force Etta to either challenge and lose the game potentially if he challenges incorrectly. That's definitely another kind of tactic that you could use at the end of the game, especially with a either a 5 or 10 point penalty challenge. So it's quite possible that happened, but we also did see Etta kind of recount the game, so I think he should be fine. It's either that or he is just disappointed that Tega's taken too long and he just wants to go take a snooze or something.
True. Yeah. All right. Looks like
I
he's
think.
he's going to go back to his original. He spent a little bit of time. He has ample time to think it over.
Took too
And
long.
yeah, too long. People are unhappy with the speed, with his speed here. This is definitely the quote unquote correct play, even though it does not lead to a win for Tega. He has no play that can realistically give him a win. So this makes sense to narrow the gap. And he has gone ahead and made this play, which means the final score of this game is 385 to 378. Neither player breaking 400, potentially as a direct result of Etta playing hyper defensively for the majority of the game once he got that lead. But he barely hangs on.
Yeah,
Um,
there's only the bingo at the very start and the bingo right at the end, and that was the only two bingos played.
that's
And I
right.
guess Ata's play of zoning really kind of set the tone for the whole game and gave him that big lead going to that last move.
Yeah, it did. So if we go back that far to zoning, it was pretty early in the game. There were a lot of ways to go here. There was a suggestion of just playing Gov here, which is very difficult to deal with and obviously sets you up to play Zins on a future turn, leaving the blank for, again, even further into the future. Of course, at this point in the game, no S's have been played, so it's a very big risk. If your opponent has one, if your opponent has an S and no bingo, you've just given a ton of points to your opponent with not a ton of gain for you. But of course, anytime they don't, you make a really sticky situation for them. So it makes some sense. That being said, I definitely think either zoning or Zinco was a good idea here. And yeah, from there on, I don't think we gave any real consideration of Futz. I think this came down during
Very
a
quickly.
flurry of moves that I didn't even really notice this move. This is a curious move to play this over something like Vugs in the
Yeah.
corner that leaves a little more balanced of a leave. I think the idea behind Futz, of course, is to sort of cut off this Z. You don't want any A's, O's, or E's going under here, and Futz cuts that off pretty emphatically. But that we didn't discuss that during the game. But yeah, some really hyper defensive plays happening here, starting with Vow and then Ba probably takes the cake with
I
a
called it. I
number.
called it.
You did. That was incredible. Ba taking the cake with something like Bauxite available for 38 points. Even Exul in the bottom left of the board for 33 seems like a pretty reasonable idea to burn through that X, but instead the play Ba on the board just blocking
Yeah,
things up.
I could tell already before that when he played Oval, I think he was getting a little bit paranoid about the S hook. And I think with Oval, he kept something like BIOU or something like that, which, isn't going to be, maybe he could have just played over instead and kept that extra consonant if he wanted to do something like that.
True.
But yeah, as soon as I saw Oval, I know that Etta is in defensive mode, and I knew that something like ZA was going to come down.
You were right. Yeah, you were 100% right. But ultimately, he does barely hold on at the very end. I wonder what happens to him if somehow the K is like, if he doesn't have the K here, it's going to be a little trickier to actually get enough points because as you can see, it was on the strength of that K that Eda was able to outrun Tega here. So very, very tight squeeze for Eda at the very end of this game, but he gets a much needed win against the current first place player in Tega Okiemute. But that was a really fun game to watch. Obviously, a game that ends in such a tight finish at the finish line is going to be exciting. And boy, we got several more games, Austin, to come. Yeah. Any final impressions of that game before we cut to a quick break and await our round 18 pairing?
It's just good for the tournament, keeping Tega within the pack, and there's all to play for. We've got a lot of strong players in the top 10, and looking forward to more great Scrabble.
Yeah, it is quite a logjam at the top, so we'll take a quick break now, see where the results come in for this round. Even as Eda took most of his time in our previous game, Tega did not even run his clock below basically 10 minutes, so that might be one of the earlier finishing games of this round. So we'll need to wait just a few minutes to get our round 18 pairing, but when we do, we'll be back with more coverage of the MGI Grand Slam 2022.